Damn you, nigga. Didn't you think nothing about me?
About you, Fiddler?
Yeah, me. Me. You go running off in the hills, you know what's gonna happen to me? I get to sleep on a mud floor. I get to eat what the pigs won't eat.
Fiddler want me to stay?
No. You can't stay now, not with them broke off chains. Ah, you done it to it now.
Okay. Now, I know that to some of y'all I sound like some content slave trying to convince other slaves to not run away from our master. Right? But today I'm going to show you that's not why I say the things I say about trying to run. Right? And later I'm going to get into just a little bit of the antitrust stuff that's been going on too. Now, trying to run away. To whoever don't know, there's a company called the Daily Wire. You know, they have Matt Walsh, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, a couple of other people, and they have, different time slots. Like radio stations have time slots, right? They got a few heavy hitters over there. But one of them, Steve Crowder, decided to defect. The Daily Wire says it's about the money. Steve says, no, it's not about the money. It's about the cause. It's about the movement. It's about the people. It's about making America great again. But what? I know better than that. It's about the money. It's about the money. Kind of like athletes hold out from signing their contracts until they get an enormous amount of money. Then they'll tell you it's not about the money. Right? But okay, if it wasn't about the money, why didn't you take the $5 million we offered you? Why did you not sign until we gave you $20 million? If it's not about the money. But anyway, we know better than that. It's Steve Crowder. It's about the money. It's not about the people. But anyway, you know how, like when you see something or somebody or a group with a cohesive unit? Well, the Daily Wire, they had a cohesive unit. The Daily Wire has a huge support base too. But when you see this cohesive unit and one of them jump ship, people start taking sides, and they're on here. That's what happened with the Daily Wire. They're on here beating each other up. And not just the big names, but also supporters are going back and forth with each other. Now, one of them, he's not a big face, but he is a big name supporter. The Quartering. He's been the target of the ones who have chosen the side. I think he even mentioned that he's lost a few hundred subscribers. But anyway, he seems to be stuck between a rock and a hard place as to who to side with. Should he side with the people with the Daily Wire or the people who sided with Crowder's side? But the Quartering, in one of his responses to this Crowder versus the Daily Wire stuff, he said something that's all too common. I've heard this a million times, and I've heard it in a million different situations.
The big con issue is something that I've been running up against, and everyone in this industry knows for many, many years. Fast forward 5 years, you can't speak the truth on YouTube, certainly not if you want to be monetized. Only one group of people here is saying, you have to fit into this box. I'm saying, you gotta let some people let their freak flag fly. There's just no interest in doing it that way. This is why we lose. Conservatives wonder, what the hell, with the midterms, what the hell happened? Why do you think? I don't care if you want to be monetized or not. Don't lock people and punish them on behalf of big tech when you claim that you are fighting them, and it is everywhere.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and last night, Steven Crowder appeared on Timcast on, I think, maybe his biggest show ever. At one point, I saw 170,000, close to 170,000 people watching live. And I do want to point out that I think the Daily Wire has done a lot of good things. I don't think that, these things in the contract, offer were good. And I do believe that they probably have similar penalties for their existing employees. That doesn't discredit the good work they've done. In fact, I believe for the first time in history, yesterday, Ben Shapiro streamed on Rumble. That's an absolute win, I think. Don't you? Because a lot of this comes from, hey, you guys are in bed with big tech. No, we're not. Okay. Well, one great way to prove you're not is to support all tech. This is something that even if you go back, by the way, to my show, my appearance on Timcast, I got on him for not using Odyssey. This comes from, hey, you guys are in bed with big tech. No, we're not. Okay. Well, one great way to prove you're not is to support all tech. This is something.
To beat big tech, support all tech.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. Which is why to some of you I sound like some content slave when I talk about people who will say, I'm out of the matrix and y'all need to get out of the matrix too. You know, and I look at these people like, where you going? Where you going? You haven't went anywhere. You're still here with the rest of us. Right, and you heard the quartering suggest stay out of the frying pan and into the fire to get away from big tech. Right, I'm on Rumble, but I don't see being on Rumble as being out of the matrix and escaping from big tech, though. And Rumble has already gobbled up a few smaller companies and infused these smaller companies into Rumble.
We have it in visual range. A Borg cube on course 04215. Speed warp 9.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
Fine, those two will.
You're not going nowhere.
And
Odyssey and all these other places is still big
fight
tech.
the good fight.
That's not it. That's like having in a concentration camp, in a prisoner of war camp, having a camp newspaper. Boy, did you read about, Jerry sure wrote a hell of a column about the food and the sanitary. We're in prison. What are you doing? Yeah, but there's a newspaper here. Did you read it? He nailed it. He slashed them, threshed them, laced into them. That's where we are right now. Well, did you hear the good news? They've elected a prison camp grievance committee among the prisoners themselves. They have no power, but I talked to our representatives, and I read. We even have, by the way, in our camp, we're going to have our own podcast. We're not getting out, but we've got a podcast and I'm including me. I'm telling you the same thing, me. I'm great. I can tell you stuff you've never even thought about before. Believe me, I did a new one last night. I'm still into this. And I've got these people. This is my favorite. Well, we're moving to Florida. You're going to show them? Yeah, buddy. You ever been there? No offense. No offense. I know what I'm talking about. You're going to love it. Go ahead. I know these people. I know these are these longtime New Yorkers. Want to go to Publix? Want to eat at 3 o'clock? Go ahead. Knock yourself out. But you're free. That's okay. And it's cheaper. No doubt about that. You're leaving? You're leaving? Well, we're going to go to, where are you going? Well, we're going to get away from this. And what? And what's going to happen there? So you're escaping. Well, unlike people in the prison, they can't escape. So, okay, good. You think you're escaping? I'm going to that part of the prison. I hate this part. What is this, 9 south or whatever? I'm going to 4 north. That's where I'm going. I'm moving over to this part of the prison. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're moving to Florida. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm going to show you.
Where you going? I've used a lot of examples to make my point against this escape the matrix thing. Like when I use these people, they are trans, so what you're looking at may not be what you think it is. But these people didn't always have guns. Right? They moved out there to get away from society's ill treatment of homosexuals, but some people thought that they didn't move far enough, and they decided to harass them and even surrounded their property at one point, so they had to arm themselves. Moving! And I've used a lot of other examples of how there's no running from this thing. And I think my examples are pretty good, but I like how Lionel sums up what I be trying to say.
Now, let me try this again. This is the prison. This is where everybody is. And you're not getting out. And I've got these people.
Elon Musk, If you know me, you know I'm no big believer in him, because after all, he's the guy who hates humans and wants to turn the population into part cyborg. Right, but he's being championed as this freedom fighter because he brought Twitter and he lets people talk just a bit more than Twitter's previous owners did. Right, and that's much needed. It is, because I'm a believer in people having the ability to speak out, but that's caught the attention of the people of the World Economic Forum. Right, and whoever don't know, the World Economic Forum is where a lot of the top demons on earth gather together to decide on who lives and dies. And we let them do it. We keep letting them do it. But Elon has got their attention for having the nerve to have Twitter where people could tattle on people.
What's on your radar today, Robbie?
Well, the World Economic Forum's yearly meeting has come to an end, and the world's wealthy corporate elites and government leaders are heading back home to continue strategizing about how best to fight climate change. Never mind the 150-plus private jets they took to the conference in Davos. As we discussed last week, one of the central themes of this year's conference, in addition to climate change, was the supposed crisis of online disinformation, the failure of social media platforms to restrict false information and prevent the gullible masses from consuming it, was held up as the central problem for our times. Because how else can the authorities at Davos figure out how to move us around like chess pieces if we keep doing unexpected things because we're reading sources of information they don't approve of, that clash with their preferred priorities and preferences? World Economic Forum leaders are fully committed to fighting the war in Ukraine for as long as it takes, and they can't have the people getting too upset about the food shortages and energy prices that are resulting from it. Former CNN anchor Brian Stelter hemmed a panel on disinformation in which a U.S. Democratic politician and the publisher of the New York Times discussed how best to weigh the trade-offs between your right to free speech and their need to shut you up. But it was the remarks by another panelist that most captured the internet's attention. This remark by European Commission member Vera Jourova went viral. Let's watch.
Well, we need the people who understand the language and the case law in the country. Because what qualifies as hate speech, as illegal hate speech, which you will have soon also in the US, I think that we have a strong reason why we have this in the criminal law.
In that clip, Jourova announces that she believes European-style hate speech laws, which criminalize transgressive and offensive political statements, will be coming to the U.S. Jourova is the European Union's Commissioner for Values and Transparency. And you have to admit she's being fairly transparent about her values there. More recently, she also had this to say on the subject of Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter.
After Mr. Musk took over the Twitter with his freedom of speech absolutism, we are the protectors of freedom of speech as well. But at the same time, we cannot accept, for instance, the illegal content online and so on. So our message was clear. We have the rules which have to be complied with, and otherwise there will be sanctions.
Follow the rules or face the sanctions. That's the EU's message for Elon Musk. She also said the time of the Wild West is over and that social media companies must behave themselves so as not to cause harm. We know what the Davos authorities mean by harm. They mean scrutiny of Western governments' COVID policies. They mean open criticism of China's communist authoritarians and questions about whether China's lax lab safety protocols were responsible for the entire pandemic. They mean vocal opposition to the war in Ukraine. Any challenge to the resolve that they believe all democratic nations must show. In other words, they mean dissent.
Elon ain't going nowhere either. You heard the lady. Do what they say, Elon, or get sanctioned. Right? And it's not because I'm a content slave, all right? It's not because I'm a content slave trying to convince other slaves not to think about running away. That's not why I say the things that I say. Now, the antitrust thing that's been going on, right? And to whoever don't know, the antitrust laws are designed to stop monopolies, designed to stop companies from growing out of control, designed to stop companies from eliminating all other competition. And Google, maybe about a week ago, Google lost an antitrust lawsuit in India because apparently Google was all the way over there gobbling up everything, too. Now, here in the United States, was that about 4 days ago, the Department of Justice, they filed an antitrust lawsuit against Google again. Right, this ain't the first time they done did it. Now, just a bit of a conspiracy theory, just for a second, right? Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, sold his Google stock just before the Department of Justice filed that lawsuit. Coincidence? I don't know. Conspiracy theory? I don't know. But anyway, how did Amazon get so big?
This comes from, hey, you guys are in bed with big tech. No, we're not. Okay. Well, one great way to prove you're not is to support all tech. This is something.
That mindset right there. And that's the mindset that we all have to, to one extent or another. We all got that mindset while I'm talking crazy about other people, pointing fingers at them. We all got that mindset in one way or another. But another reason that there's no escape from big tech, and this too, it's not just a physical location, it's mental. Right? Put it to your search engine. Banks won't give me my money. Or banks closing accounts. And after you do that, you will see people are going up to the teller like, yeah, I would like to withdraw some of my money. And the tellers will be like,
you want me to ask for my bike back? You know I wouldn't trip. What bike?
Here and in different parts of the world, people are finding out that their money is gone. Right? And I've heard people talking about it, and I've heard several people, you know what they'll do after they talk about these, the banks freezing people's accounts? They'll suggest to people that they should move their money out of banks and into credit unions, as if that's not out of the frying pan and into the fire, or vice versa, out of the fire and into the frying pan. Okay, I just cut out a portion of the video where I went into banks and credit unions and the end game being to get us on digital currency. I'm not going to do all that right now. I'll do that some other time. But right now, I'll just say that credit unions are not an escape from what the banks are doing. Right? The banks are sending out feelers, to test the public's reaction to these accounts being frozen and money disappearing. But what am I saying about this flee doctrine? This doctrine that we can flee, this we can run away theory. What am I saying?